it's easy to sell a business when you've got an amazing piece of technology or some radical life-changing piece of software, or you're just making things that people like. But when you've got something to talk about that we need to talk about, how do you talk about it when no one actually wants to listen? So, with that in mind, we are at Tech Coalition, and I'm joined by Anna, who's going to tell us a lot more about what they do and how you can change your messaging to make sure that you get through to the right people in the right way.
Absolutely. Well, thank you. And we're still figuring out how to answer this question, to be honest. So the Tech Coalition is an alliance of these tech companies right here, a lot of the major players in the global tech industry, right? You can see them right there. And they work together under the Tech Coalition. We facilitate them learning how to better detect, prevent, remove child sexual abuse materials from their websites, from their platforms, which is obviously a massive problem. It is something that needs to be addressed, and as you said, it's not something that people want to talk about, which as head of marketing and communications for the Tech Coalition, that's a big challenge.
So let's maybe wind back to when you first started with Tech Coalition, and you were presented that exact conundrum on day one. What did you do, and what's happened since?
So I wish someone had presented that to me. I've had to sort of figure this out. So I come from the gender equality space. My work before this was through the United Nations Foundation, leading gender equality movements globally for girls, and everybody wants to talk about that.
Oh God,
right?
yeah.
It's
Everyone
everywhere.
has an opinion.
You can buy books. I have so many T-shirts that represent gender equality, right? That issue is everywhere, and that's great because it's important, right? But this issue is equally as important. We have this stat right up here behind me that's 500,000 reports of child sex abuse online get sent to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children every week. That's not an annual report, right? Like last year was about 29 million reports to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children.
And if those are the reports, those are the things that are getting reported.
Correct.
Which means the undercurrent must be even larger.
Exactly. So when I took this job just over a year ago, I thought, this is amazing. Who doesn't want to talk about children? Everybody wants to talk about saving children and helping make the world better for children. And then I learned that that's not the case, because right after child, you have sexual abuse. And that's when people do this, and they just have no interest because it's daunting. It's a tale as old as time. It is, an issue that's always been prevalent, and it's something that people just think, that's for them, I don't know how to deal with this, so they just shut down.
I think that's the truth. It's not even necessarily people don't want to talk about it. They don't even know how to start the conversation.
Right.
As you said, it's important, but what can I bring to this?
Right, exactly. It's interesting. I will go home, my husband is a teacher, he's an educator, he's a coach, he coaches basketball, and I come home and I start to tell him some of the things that I've learned during the day, and even he says, I don't want to know this. It is just this instant reaction. So coming in, I wasn't expecting that. I was expecting this to be, we're saving children, that's wonderful. These companies are dedicated to, helping keep children safe on their platforms, that's amazing. And yet, from a marketing and communication standpoint, it's been very difficult. Media doesn't want to talk about this. Folks don't want to have interviews within this space. There's a ton happening. Everybody wants to talk about it in this space, the people that are working on it. But outside of that, it's just that's not a story. So how do we make this a story?
Which I'm hoping is something we're going to achieve right here, right now. So tell me then, what are some of the things that you've done, particularly things that you've done that have actually worked, that have gotten through?
So anytime you can actually show that these companies are doing something to move forward, people start to pay a little bit more attention, right? Because otherwise it's just a problem. And you can only talk about a problem for so long before you're then expected to follow that with, and here's what we're doing about it. So earlier this year, we launched a transparency framework. So companies have these reports that they do every year. Some do it quarterly, some do it biannually. And they are reports on what's happening on their platform, which helps us understand the scale of the problem, the scope of the problem, and things like that. And then the companies themselves know what they need to address. So those go out publicly every year. But they're all different. Everybody has their own way of doing transparency reporting, so how do you track the bigger problem? So we created a framework with the companies themselves working within the coalition created this framework so that they can better align on what they should be reporting. So then we can look at the full scope of data and actually see what it means. So once you do things like that, then people are saying, okay, that's a step forward.
Fantastic. So, I mean, are there any particular, I don't know if there are any particular stories to share from working with those companies? Obviously, I don't know if you can even mention the names specifically of who did what, but what were some of the biggest barriers that you had to get over other than just, I don't want to hear about it?
Yeah. So some of it is certainly the companies that we work with, right? There is so much, people want to talk about the bad. They want to talk about how bad the problem is on this platform or that platform or things like that. And we will tend to get mentioned within that. Oh, they're a member of the tech coalition, which is kind of neutral on us. Sometimes it can be bad. So that's certainly one of the challenges. Yeah, because we're just getting thrown into, again, here's the problem.
Right, yes.
Every time we're mentioned with the problem, but we want to be mentioned with the solution. And that's where my job comes in, right? Like, how do I make sure that we are leading the conversation on, yes, this is a massive problem, these numbers are huge, but here's what industry is doing about it. And they are addressing this problem. And I know it's hard to get that through the noise because reporters and journalists want to talk about how things are going wrong at Meta or how things are going wrong at TikTok, but they're not talking about all the amazing work these companies are doing to solve this problem.
People, because it's salacious to be able to say, here's the bad thing, here's the juicy story.
Right.
But actually, I think, particularly if you're in industry news rather than things that are for public consumption, if your focus is less on trying to get the maximum click rate and actually do some serious, real journalism, surely the solution is the whole point of what you should be talking about.
Yeah, you would think. That's what I'm hoping. I mean, I'm hoping as, we're seeing globally, there's new regulation being introduced that is going to start to regulate the tech companies, and that is quickly moving in a lot of different parts in the world, including here in the EU. And I think that once things are better aligned, they will start to see that tech really is doing a lot of the things that they need to do. It's a hard problem to tackle, right? Like every time tech advances, the bad actors advance too, right? They learn how to manipulate the tech. They learn how to do bad with what has been created to be good.
Yeah.
So it's a never-ending problem. We're never going to stop child sexual abuse online. And what I would hope from a communication standpoint, so if this is a message for journalists out there, what I hope is that we would start to focus on the actual perpetrators, the people that are harming children. These platforms aren't harming children. They're a mechanism that bad actors are using to spread these horrible images and to groom children. But that gets to be the focus because, again, they're brand names.
People want to be able to say, TikTok is evil, don't trust Apple.
Right. But it's the people, it's the humans that are manipulating good technology for bad.
Yeah, they're effectively neutral.
Yes. So that's where I'm hoping we can shift the story, and people like me who are trying to create a narrative in this space where people don't want to talk about it, that we can shift it onto what the actual problem is and who's creating the problem. And it's not tech creating the problem.
No, their sole interest is what thing can we make that will make us money?
Correct.
So they're not looking to find ways to help bad guys do more bad things.
Exactly.
So when it comes to an event like this, the usual question, how has it been for you? But I'm thinking more, how is that message received when you're on a much more personal one-to-one level, but when people are maybe not really, they weren't coming here to think about this kind of thing.
Right. No one's ever walking through life wanting to think about this. Two things are happening here. We're meeting with a lot of people who are just saying, I'm so happy you exist, right? I didn't know that these companies were aligning on this issue. I'm happy that this is a place that in industry, most of these companies, we see them in the media not getting along, right? They have lawsuits against each other. And under the coalition, they're actively working together and building trust and all of these things. So people are excited to know that there is a realm in this world in which that's happening. And the other thing is for us to go around to some of these companies and say, you're not even thinking about this, but this is a huge potential issue for your platform.
Yeah.
And you see their eyes and it's like, whoa, I had never thought that. But that's how we got into this, is because, decades ago, nobody was thinking about the harm. You just think about, I created this cool thing. And so we've had people say, you need to come and talk to our board. You need to talk to our CEO, because they're recognizing that safety by design, actually thinking about this from the beginning, and there's so many startups here, that if they're thinking about it from the beginning, this won't become a problem for them later. And that's a really wonderful thing for us to accomplish.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So if you are in a business and you want to join the board here.
Yes, absolutely.
What happens next?
So our website, there's a membership inquiry page. It's technologycoalition.org. And you can go on there. You can see what the application process is. There are 9 criteria that we ask our companies to meet. But really the biggest thing is just a commitment to actually doing this on your platform. And for smaller companies, we have a mentorship program. So some of these big names and logos that you're seeing up here, they actually mentor smaller companies that don't have trust and safety capacities, that don't know how to get started and where to get started. So we offer that mentor capability, which is amazing.
That is absolutely brilliant. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us in the nicest way possible. I hope that you don't have to exist in the future.
Right, exactly. Well, Dan, thank you for being willing to talk about this.
It's honestly been a pleasure, and obviously make sure to follow and keep an eye on Tech Coalition.
Absolutely.
And as always, don't forget to like, subscribe, all that usual jazz. Thank you for watching, and we will catch you in the next video.